Alright folks, so we have Vegie playing off against Iaguz in the AoE4 Oz Championship 2022, hosted by Mester and Mark. And so Vegie spawning as the French player in the blue trunks, and spawning as the Delhi player in the red trunks, we have Iaguz. So Mosque going down for Iaguz, who's also getting a house. Just getting a fair bit of food in the meantime. I don't think he's really distance gathering any wood just yet, but he does have that initial scholar garrisoned in the mosque. Getting the efficient production and piety tax pretty standard here. Vegie going for a really early mill, so going to be able to start gathering a bit of berries in case not successful in getting a lot of sheep, and going to be able to get the wheelbarrow tech really early, which is cheaper for the French players, mind you. Vegie is going to have to distance gather wood now in order to be able to produce anything beyond this, but it's not going to be a huge problem because this means in the meanwhile Vegie's whole economy is just around food and gold, going to be able to race down the path towards age 2 and fielding that early night to get a little bit of value out in the map and sort of try and stun the opponent, put the pressure on them. So both our players distance gathering wood in this matchup to get through this, and Vegie not even doing that just yet. But Iaguz actually distance gathering wood just to get the mining camp at this point, but he's then going to get wood for a lumber camp behind this once he's got his H2 on track as well. Being Delhi, he's going to be able to make use of the fact that he can go for the berries so heavily early on because he gets the bonus in gather rate and in capacity, and in the meanwhile he can keep his scouts active, deny his opponents sheep acquisition, and maximize his, and then fall back on gathering on the sheep once he's in age 2. So Vegie, it's important because the French player has probably the most heavy food bottleneck in the early game, but Vegie does have access to these early berries at least, so not such a huge problem. But I mean, there's no bonuses to the berry gathering for the French player other than the fact they can take horticulture cheaper than any other civ. They get access to all ecotechs cheaper than any other civ. Even forestry might be worthwhile in some situations as French, I guess, because it's just that cheap. I mean, if you're going for like docks, why not? Forestry, why not? So Iaguz, Dome of the Faith, just to get the early scholars out cheaper, and also continue down the pathway of getting sanctity for the sacred site control and things like all-seeing eye or herbal medicine, just to be more useful in the fight. Zeal even, once you get to Imperial. Look at that, 20 minutes to take it, unless you've got stacks of scholars in garrison. That's nuts. So School of Cavalry, 3 villages on it for Vegie. Vegie often goes for 4 to try and sneak it out a little bit quicker, but opting for 3 this game. A little bit of early stone gathering as well. Only 2 vills on the gold, so perhaps Vegie's looking to go for an early second town centre. He's trying to harass the Delhi player in the meanwhile with vills. So Iaguz having to put his vills at the rear side of the Dome of the Faith in the TC range there. Meanwhile, Vegie and vills having to take a stroll back to the TC and avoid being chipped away at by the vills, by the scouts. So it's a bit of a slow death here. It's death by 1,000 cuts. It takes 25 attacks by a single scout to kill a villager. They're actually so low damage. But I guess it's really the walk time and the fact that you've got to cycle through the vills and just make sure you don't lose any and ultimately bring back your own scouts to defend it. That's what makes it important. Because bearing in mind, iaguz is getting a good view of Vegie's base, and Vegie, having brought the scouts back, isn't getting the same. Vegie did try to do a bit of a run by here, but at the same time, I don't know if Vegie actually knows about the barracks as yet. I don't think so, no. So iaguz a bit free to go with whatever tech is desired. Obviously, against the French player, you want to really conform to the fact that you probably will field horsemen or knights if they're not going for a second town centre. And even if they do, they probably will follow up with horsemen into knights, because they'll be able to afford horsemen at first, like right now, and then take knights from here. As they get more gold gatherers, more food gatherers, that second town centre finishes up. So iaguz down in terms of eco production very soon, but at the same time going to be able to leverage access to all these eco techs a little bit earlier, and quite a bit of military production once he gets a few more of these scholars out, both in the mosque. The tech speed increases, and once he gets them in these production facilities, they actually basically all act as the English Age 2 landmark, where they're at double speed, which is absolutely nutty for Delhi. So iaguz actually looking to go for horseman harass straight into Vegie. Vegie in the meanwhile, oh, I was wrong, it was iaguz that was going for the early horseman, I think. Yeah, Vegie at this point has really only just got the scouts. He's adding the barracks. Not looking at adding any stables units just yet. Vegie actually doesn't have a lot of food in the bank at the moment, and is going to be gathering shitloads of wood through all this. Bearing in mind the second TC is just rallied to bump up food gather account. Vegie expanding towards this sacred site with that second town centre probably is going to be pretty well off in being able to try and push iaguz off this if this push is miscalculated, because it's quite a distance for back to iaguz's base. Well, this isn't too far from Vegie's original town centre. Quite a good fallback point and not very far from that sacred site. But meanwhile, iaguz is going to try and secure the bottom side of the map here. Try and hit the gold mine, perhaps, of Vegie. These units are a bit too slow. And bearing in mind, Vegie, at the moment, I don't think has pumped out any knights at all. It's really just been a couple of spearmen over here to guard the initial town centre, but this pair of rangers, and it's not going to be great against the Delhi player playing with so many early horsemen. Blacksmith coming out for Vegie as well. That's going to be quite good, because access to free melee damage for the French player. Another sacred site being secured by iaguz. Vegie having to rely on a small amount of archer fire just to dissuade iaguz from staying around here. iaguz going to be able to start trickling in a bit of free gold from these sacred sites, acting as 2 free relics. Oh, a third one being secured now by iaguz against Vegie. Vegie's going to have to try and find a way to macro through this and really harass iaguz to death and force him back off these sacred sites. iaguz in the meanwhile going to keep trying to just hit and run and delay Vegie and secure the map, because once the Delhi players got access to all the gold out of the sacred control and sort of puts their opponent on the clock, they can really just focus on getting Castle Age with all the free gold that they're going to get. Just work on their food eco, take Castle Age, and then follow up with snatching all the relics. So I think iaguz is just going to look at doing that right now. So yeah, his compound of the defenders going down. Access to cheaper stone walls, not so useful access to cheaper tower emplacements, which is really useful because Delhi can then really secure sacred sites with sprinkled towers quite easily and start stonewalling the sacred sites if they really want to feel like being a dog act. Sorry about being elitist, but stonewallers are garbage, considering in this game you can't attack walls with anything, stone walls with anything other than siege units. I don't know, it's annoying. Rewards turtling too much. I know, it's a personal complaint. That's not tied to the opinions of the officials of this tournament. Just myself. But Jaeger's really going to be able to secure the sacred sites. Vegie only just looking to push the center one now, but most of Jaeger's forces are here. There is already that upgraded tower, so Jaeger's could always rally that its attack onto units here. Oh yeah, onto the spearmen. Try and pick them off. Vegie's going to be able to snatch this one back. And this far side one, not so secure. He has walled in the top side one. Jaegers, like I said, going for that fairly quick castle, going to be able to secure all these relics. And now has more scholars free to just get back on these sacreds once Vegie looks at pushing off them or bringing his army together. So Vegie getting a lot of stone in the meanwhile. Probably wants to look at going for a quick keep once age 3 is on the way. So castle age, Vegie still needs a little bit of gold and a little bit of food, but plenty of gatherers ready to take him there. So the mill nearly finished. Sacred site on the left, on the right side and in the center, both falling to Vegie, but on the left side, Jaegers is managing to hold on to this one, denying Vegie the chance to snatch it back off him. 4 relics, 4 Jaegers here, so a little bit of gold trickle still, basically 500 gold a minute across relics and sacred site at the moment. So Jaegers adding tower rallies just to make that push. And man-at-arms, just make it uncomfortable for the French player because now they've really got to rely on knights to actually get any value against all these heavy armor units. And then having enough archers to really pick off anything else the Delhi player has. While taking their own castle age behind this. So Vegie's Guild Hall going down next to the original town centre. More production being added, a couple of stables alongside the ranges, and Vegie in the meanwhile has added just range damage and the melee damage for free for the French player as per the tech. Double blacksmith here for our Delhi player because Jaeger's making use of the free military techs. Delhi having all techs for free, but taking an absolute age to finish. So defensive keep here for Vegie. But this second town centre may basically be sacrificed, I guess, because Jaeger's second he pushes with a couple more Ellies and a couple more units to defend the Ellies, he can look at taking that town centre out, I think. In saying that, Vegie still has an impressive small force here, so as long as Vegie doesn't overextend, look at trying picking off some of these units here. The scholars forced to retreat quite quickly, and these spears can actually take down the tower rally quite quickly as well. The Ellie slightly faster than the spears, I think. There we go, the Ellie just falling. So Vegie getting a little bit of value at the end of that because it's 1,000 resources versus I think it's only about 60? No, sorry, only about 80 resources for spears and archers. Meanwhile, Jaegers has managed to secure this point once again. Vegie's keeping on his toes, that defensive keep finishing up, so Vegie's going to be able to now really just rely on getting the resources to try and make a more aggressive keep now and creep towards the Delhi player, but Jaegers massing up the elephants at the moment. Defensive keep of his own while he gets another mosque just to speed up tech train rate and also just keep his base nice and secure. Because at the end of the day, if you can't force your opponent to a landmark loss, they can just about always come back unless you snipe the entirety of their eco. So right now, Jaegers looking at taking down the town centre. For a second there I thought the game had frozen up, then I realised that the allies just sort of sit there in between their attacks. That TC is going to go down quite quickly, so Vegie has to try and mount a force to repel this and do it fast. And look at getting on one of these sacred sites, because bearing in mind Jaegers hasn't actually put anything on either of them. So Vegie could really deny both of those, and they're contributing to Jaegers' free gold count, pushing it up to 700 gold a minute from 500 gold a minute. So, but Vegie's Knight attempting to do so, or go for a bit of scouting and harass, gets picked off there, so that's very rough for Vegie. So behind this, Jaegers just adding castle age techs, attempting to raid with individual knights. Not a bad idea, but they're going to have to flee because there is 4 man-at-arms to chase it away. Meanwhile, Vegie struggling to find places to gather that Jaegers isn't cutting the villagers off from. Has a relic under control there, but Vegie can't really afford to throw down a monastery to capture it. At this point, it's really only just delaying Jaegers' gold gathering out of it. Jaegers actually now adding a fort to this, keep to the sacred site, and can't quite afford doing the same to the next one, but I guess can always put down 3 or 4 keeps. And I mean 3 or 4 towers and achieve the same thing. That's a really healthy number of elephants at the moment. I think Vegie needs to probably cancel this keep and build another one slightly further back, or build a bunch of towers. Vegie has a little bit too much stone and not enough wood or food to really defend a push here, I think, because I mean there is a reasonable force there. Vegie already has age 3, can get some arbs, so they and crossbowmen can really punch through the alleys and force Jaegers to retreat, because these are high value units and Jaegers doesn't want to have the alleys fall too quickly here. So one of the elephants getting picked off for a handful of units, so this is going great for Vegie so far, but Jaegers now splitting up the elephants. They are slightly whittling down the spears of Vegie's own man-at-arms. I mean, Jaegers' own man-at-arms can really force the range of Vegie's back into the base. Vegie having to try and focus down all the scholars with the spearmen, and now their count's really been whittled down, so there's no spears left for Vegie, only what's just came out of production, and Jaegers managed to turn that fight around quite quickly there with the addition of the man-at-arms, just splitting all the tower alleys up. Once again, the tower alleys chipping away at the buildings while also proving to be a huge threat to the base, and Vegie ultimately having to tap out. GG. Well played to our players.